Hey guys, what's up? I am back, and today I'm doing my final predictive first round NFL mock draft. I'm going to be doing all 32 teams here. You know, I don't think I'm going to do trades. If I see a trade that I like, then I will do it. Actually, I probably will do trades because I think the Vikings are definitely going to move out of the first round or try to trade back. So I will do trades. But really, I'm just trying to nail it and get the players that I think are going to go at each pick. So let's start this here. And this one is penciled in. It's Cam Ward. We know that the Titans have made it abundantly clear that Cam Ward is their guy. Cam Ward has made it abundantly clear that the Titans are his team. He said that Treylon Burks and Calvin Ridley are his top receivers in the NFL. So Cam Ward is going to the Titans. If he doesn't, I think everybody will be shocked. I don't see how he doesn't go to the Titans there. But that's just the move. Now, with the Browns here, I want Abdul Carter for them, but it seems like Travis Hunter is going to be the guy. It seems in league circles that Travis Hunter is being talked about as a wide receiver for the Browns, which I don't like. I like him as a cornerback playing on the boundary. So I think year one, if he goes to the Browns, probably they use him at wide receiver, and then year two he probably goes over to cornerback with some questions about the longevity of their cornerback room and who's going to be there after this year. So I am going to go with Travis Hunter here. That seems like the penciled in pick for them. And then with the Giants, Kayvon Thibodeau has not been what they wanted when they drafted him a few years ago. Sounds like he may be on the move. Even if he's not, Abdul Carter and Brian Burns as your future on the edge is just unbelievable. So Abdul Carter is going to be who I take for the Giants here. That just seems like the consensus. Abdul Carter it is here. And now is when people say the draft really starts. Patriots here, so many ways you could go. Ted McMillan, I've taken Ashton Genty. I took him in my last mock. I think Ashton Genty would be a good move for them because of the depth at offensive line in this class. It really seems like Will Campbell is going to be the guy at number 4 to play left guard for them. Maybe they do view him as a tackle as well, which I wouldn't love. I think the better option for the Patriots is to take Ashton Genty at 4, get that really high-end running back. I really like that. I've said it before, I think when you look at Ashton Genty, you're looking at using your number 4 overall pick on 4 to 5 years of really, really good running back play. I don't think you're ever looking to extend him when you draft him right here in the first round. You're looking for elite play, because people to try to tear Genty down talk about how much he was used in college and, the wear and tear on Genty's body. I don't think you're looking at him as a long-term franchise running back. You're looking at him for 3, 4, 5 years of good running back play, nothing more. So Genty, I think, is the best option for the Patriots here, but it sounds like it's going to be Will Campbell. I just would rather they have an early second-round pick. You could take maybe Donovan Jackson falls there, although with the Vikings trading out of the first round, if they do, I think Donovan Jackson could be a good pick for them, or the Texans at 25. But I think if Donovan Jackson is there, he's a great grab. If you're looking at left tackle, which they should, Ariante Ursary in the early second is a great move for them. You could also look at Jonah Savaiania, but it sounds like Will Campbell is going to be that guy at pick number 4. Not my top pick, but it seems like in league circles that is what they are talking about, and Will Campbell it is to the Patriots. Now number 5 here is where everybody is putting Genty in here, which is crazy to me. This to me sounds like some late some late smoke. You know, Mason Graham has been the chalked in pick for about 3 months. And then all of a sudden, 3 to 4 days before the draft, it's Ashton Genty as a lock to go to the Jaguars. No, I don't understand it. How it changes that suddenly. I get it. Travis Etienne is not going to stop you from taking the best running back prospect we've seen since Bijan or even Saquon, if you want to go that far. But I just don't like it. I think it's a fun pick for them. I'm not buying into the smoke. You know, I would, if they take Genty at 5, I would have absolutely no problem with it. I just don't buy it. I'm not buying into that smoke. You know, because everybody and their mom are picking Ashton Genty to the Jaguars right now. No, what happened to Mason Graham? What happened to Ted McMillan? What happened to maybe Tyler Warren? No, I'm not buying into it. I'm going to go with Mason Graham at number 5 to the Jaguars. I think that's what's going to happen. They need to address the defensive interior, get someone next to Eric Armstead, and it's going to be Mason Graham here for the Jaguars. Raiders sitting here. Ashton Genty is on the board. You know, Ashton Genty has been favored to the Raiders for a long time. I think they're probably gonna take Genty. But you could also look at offensive line. You take Armand Membu to play right guard right now, his first year, and then you have DJ Glaze move over to left tackle next year, with Armand Membu taking over that right tackle spot. I like that going forward. So that could definitely work out. I think maybe Chip Kelly could say, look, we could take Ashton Genty at 6, but we're sitting there at what are we sitting there at? 37. We're sitting there at 37. Trey Henderson is probably going to be on the board. That's my guy. I want to go with him. I don't know if they're going to take Genty here. Even if he is on the board. I think addressing O-line is much more important for them, and I think Chip Kelly would probably prefer to have their O-line set in place and get one of his guys from Ohio State. I'm going to go with Armand Membu here to the Raiders. I think that is a great pick for them, but this is hard for me. It's hard for me because the consensus is Armand to the Jets. That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like it's going to happen. It sounds like it's Armand to the Jets. Now, I just don't know how I feel about the people on this coaching staff wanting Genty over the top tackle in the class. I'm going to go with Armand Membu here. That is a great pick for the Raiders there. Might have leaned a bit outside of the predictive and gone with, well, no, I think it's logical. I think it's logical that is the route they would prefer to go to get Chip Kelly's running back from Ohio State. Now the Jets are on the board here. And this pick is just so confusing to me. You know, it could be Tyler Warren. They don't have a tight end. So Tyler Warren is probably the guy I'd love to go with here. You could look at getting someone on the defensive line for Aaron Glenn. I don't think quarterback is going to do it. I think Shedeur is actually going to slip quite a bit. But we'll talk about that when we get to Shedeur. You know, this is certainly tough. They could go Tet to get someone across from Garrett Wilson. I think Will Johnson is a fun pick. I don't know. There are so many ways that they could go here. I think Armand is probably like the penciled in pick for the Jets. So here this is tough. I really do think edge is a fun option. You could also look at Kelvin Banks going as early as 7. But really what I'm going to do here is I'm going to trade up. I am going to trade up with the Bears here. And how is that How is that fair? How is it telling me that that's fair? No. Um, Let me open up my trade value chart, um, and check what we need to do to move up to number 7. So to move up to number 7, that would be pick 72. Cool. Cool. It would be pick 72, and then the Jets would throw back a fifth probably. So throw back 160. Yeah, throw back 162, and that's how they move up there. And Bears are going to move up for Ashton Genty. Ben Johnson is going to get his guy here, and I think that's a fantastic move for the Bears to be able to move up and get Ashton Genty at number 7. Now, with the Panthers here, it really seems like Jalen Walker is going to be the pick, and I don't like it. I don't like Jalen Walker in the top 10. I actually still have to drop him down my board because I'm looking at him as a pure linebacker, not as an edge, but it seems like the league really wants him as an edge. Jalen Walker seems like the pick. They desperately need help on the edge. They have, who do they have on the edge? They have like DJ Wanham. Let me check who they have on the edge. It's not good. It's really not good. They have they have DJ Wanham and Tershawn Wharton. I don't know how I could have forgotten about Tershawn Wharton. That's terrible of me. But they do desperately need help on the edge. I think going after a Mykel Williams is probably the better option for the Panthers here, but it seems like Jalen Walker is going to be the guy, and he does help them out in the pass rush department. So I will go with that for the Panthers here. Now, Saints. Are the Saints going to be real and understand who they are? Are they going to understand that taking Shedeur Sanders at 9 is a bad idea? I hope that the Saints realize that you could take someone now in the top 10, have a bad season, which they will, get a high draft pick, and take a quarterback. Next year's class is way better. Anyone you get in the first next year is going to be better than Shedeur Sanders. I truly believe. So, do you take somebody now to help out your franchise QB that you take next year? That's my belief. And I think Tyler Warren is a fun route. But Ted McMillan is going to be the way I go. There are some serious health concerns with Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks, all of them. All of them have serious health concerns. Get a big-bodied boundary receiver for your future franchise quarterback. I think that's absolutely the route they would go. I will also look at maybe an edge. An edge could be interesting. Something on the defensive line could be interesting. Maybe Mykel Williams, but I'm not going to go that route. If I were going to talk about Mykel Williams in the top 10, it probably would have been to the Bears because he's a Dennis Allen guy. But Ted McMillan is the route I'm going to go here with the Saints. Now we're on the board with the Jets at pick 10. And here, might be a bit of an interesting pick. But I'm going to go Kelvin Banks here to the Jets. I think they could take him and move him over to right tackle. I think that's a good move for him. He could play guard in the short term if they need him to, because I believe they have Morgan Moses at that right tackle spot. And so, you could look at Kelvin Banks as that future at right tackle. I would prefer Armand Membu for them if he were to fall there. But he didn't. Or no, they lost Morgan Moses. They have, I think, Okorafor at right tackle now. Kelvin Banks, I think, provides them that franchise right tackle, and they take him in the exact spot. I think the exact spot that they took Olufashinu at number 10. Maybe it was 11. No, it was 10. I don't know. Now, Niners on the board. It seems like Walter Nolan is the guy. Robert Saleh loves pass rushers on the interior. Getting Walter Nolan, pass rush upside. I don't like Walter Nolan. I don't have him in my first round at all. So I would love if the 49ers took Walter Nolan at 11. I think that would be great for everyone else in the NFC West. But it really seems like Walter Nolan's going to be the pick if Kelvin Banks is not there. You could look to Will Johnson because they lost Charvarius Ward. But Walter Nolan is going to be the guy I go with here for the 49ers. Now, on the board at 12, we have the Cowboys, which Omarion Hampton could be the route I go here. I think Omarion Hampton is probably the best pick for them here, considering who's on the board. If Genty falls, obviously you take him. If Tet falls, obviously you take him. But there's no one here that fell that I'm really looking at. I mean, Matthew Golden seems to be the consensus. I would go with Omarion Hampton, but it seems like they have CeeDee Lamb. They lost Brandon Cooks, so it does seem like they do want to get another receiver next to CeeDee. Right now they have Jalen Tolbert and Kavontae Turpin, Kavontae Turpin's a good special teamer, but you don't want him as really your franchise receiver going forward. So I think Matthew Golden is the consensus here. Get a really speedy wide receiver for the future next to CeeDee Lamb, and especially with CeeDee's injury stuff that he had this past year, hopefully Matthew Golden can alleviate some of that stress when it comes to injured wide receivers. Matthew Golden is going to be the pick there at number 12. Now at 13, here is where I'd probably go Will Johnson. I'm not going to simulate a Jalen Ramsey trade right now. I think it happens during the draft, maybe day 2 or 3. So I'm not going to do it now. But Will Johnson is probably the best choice here. You could also look at Jahdae Barron. But Will Johnson is, I think, the best player on the board. They're not going to take left tackle, I don't believe. They just drafted Patrick Paul in the second last year. So I think taking a tackle is a bad move. I don't think they're not going to take any guards here. Greer is not going to take guards here. It's just not going to happen. I think Will Johnson is the best player available, and I think he would be a great fit on that Dolphins defense. Because you look, they are running that Mike McDonald defense. So Will Johnson fits that perfectly. He's familiar with the scheme. He's at Michigan. So this is just a perfect pick there. I'm going to go with Will Johnson to the Dolphins. Now, Colts, this is just an obvious pick. Tyler Warren is the consensus here. I do think he would fit in perfectly with their offensive scheme, especially with his run after catch ability. So Tyler Warren is just the easy pick here. Tight end is one of their biggest needs, and he has fallen quite a bit. In my last mock, I didn't take Tyler Warren. I wanted to try something different and go with the offensive line in the first. But here, this is the obvious pick. This is the easiest pick. This is the best pick, probably. I'm going to go with Tyler Warren to the Colts there. Now, Falcons here. This is where it's interesting. This is a place where you could take edge, but we know that the Falcons have avoided taking edges in the first. You could also look at linebacker with Jihad Campbell falling this far. I think he is a top 10 player, but it seems like Jihad Campbell might actually fall this far tomorrow night. Or actually, when is this being uploaded? This is being uploaded the day of the draft. So tonight. You could look at wide receiver, but I think that's more of something you would address in day 2. So I think really for the Falcons, I think defensive line has to be the route that you go, and it needs to be an edge. I truly believe it has to be an edge, and Mike Green, I think, is a really good fit for their defense. I think he's a really good fit for that defense. They've avoided taking edge for so long, which is why it's so hard to do this as a predictive pick. But edge is clearly their biggest need. PFF says wide receiver, which is crazy. It's edge. They don't have anyone on their edge room right now that I would like. They have Leonard Floyd and Morgan Fox. That is not sustainable. You need to get a future edge. I'm going to go with Mike Green here to the Falcons. But you know what? Could also look at Shamar Stewart with his upside. This is intriguing now. We could also look at Shamar Stewart with his upside, and you know what? I think that's the route I'm going to go with Shamar Stewart. I think that's the route because of his size, because of his upside. I'm going to go with Shamar Stewart to the Falcons here. And now the Cardinals on the board, and this just makes perfect sense. It's got to be Kenneth Grant, you know? They were heavily pursuing Milton Williams. Jonathan Gannon was there in Philly when they drafted Jordan Davis to be exactly what Kenneth Grant is going to be for them. I think this just makes so much sense at 16. I don't think Kenneth Grant gets past the Cardinals at 16. Kenneth Grant is going to be my pick. He fills a big need, and he's just a perfect Jonathan Gannon guy to take at 16 there. Now, 17, here's what I'm thinking. So, defense is probably the move, you know. Probably going to be the move here. But you could also look at guard, you know. Protecting Joe Burrow for the future is really, really important. Cordell Volson as their left guard is bad. And it seems like the league is still very high on Tyler Booker. It does. It seems like the league is still very high on Tyler Booker. So, you know, he doesn't fit in like a Shanahan scheme, but for the Bengals, I think he could absolutely work. You know, I'm sitting here thinking maybe this could be offensive line. I'm still struggling. I don't think it should be, and I don't know if it will. I think safety is probably the route you go here with Malachi Starks being on the board. I did this in my last mock, and that is what I'm going to do probably. You could also look at edge. You know, Trey Hendrickson still might get traded. Miles Murphy isn't what people thought he was going to be. So edge is also an area that you should probably address here. I just wanted to throw that little offensive line bit out there. Donovan Ezuraku would be fun here. Mykel Williams would also be really fun. But I think I'm going to stick with Malachi Starks here to the Bengals. I would love to get a safety. You know, Geno Stone is not good. He's not good. They have Jordan Battle and Dijon Anthony. That's not going to do it for me. Malachi Starks is the pick here. Seahawks on the board. Really feels like this is going to be Gray Zabel. It really does. You know, I think also Trey Amos is possible with how much he fits the Seahawks defensive scheme. So I do think Trey Amos is someone to keep your eye on. You could look at maybe Mykel Williams here, who I think would be amazing for the Seahawks. But we're doing predictive, and it really seems like Gray Zabel is going to be the guy, which I would be very happy with for the Seahawks. Lots of Seahawks fans don't like it. I don't understand it. He has such a high floor. Bring him in. You could play him at left guard or center. Either one I think he's going to be great at. Gray Zabel is an amazing pick at 18. I would take Mykel over him, but out of everybody that's still on the board here, Gray Zabel is going to be my number two option behind Mykel Williams. Gray Zabel is the pick here. And now, you got to stop the slide. Jihad Campbell, if he falls to the Bucs here, he has to go there. He has to go there. They desperately need pass rush help, and he provides that. He provides that pass rush help for the Bucs. And right now, Anthony Walker, while I do like Anthony Walker, I like Anthony Walker as depth. I don't like him as a starter. Take Jihad Campbell to be your starting linebacker next to Levante David, and he gives you some great pass rush versatility. What are my dogs barking at? I don't know. Just going out of nowhere. All right, Jihad Campbell is the pick there for the Buccaneers. All right, Broncos Central. Hey, shut your trap. Broncos sitting here at number 20. Omarion Hampton is still here. Colson Loveland is also still here. But, I mean, I think Sean Payton really, really values the running game more than the passing game. Omarion Hampton is a really, really good value pick here at number 20. They desperately need a running back. They have Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime as their starting running backs right now. That cannot happen. Omarion Hampton is going to be the pick here at number 20 for the Broncos. Now, Steelers. Okay, so I'm not going to go with Shedeur here. And here's where I'll have my little talk about Shedeur. So, with Shedeur, it seems across the league like he is interviewing terribly. It really seems like he's interviewing terribly. Some teams are completely taking him off their board because of his attitude and his entitlement, which makes sense. I've heard him talk. I don't like Shedeur at all, not as a player and not as a person. You don't have to take him here. You could go with Milroe or Dart, or just take a QB in the second or third, man. That's the route to go. That's the best route to go. And they have said they're comfortable rolling with Mason Rudolph if they have to. So I think here you just go best player available? I think Nick Emanwari would be a really fun fit for the Steelers. Omarion Hampton isn't here, so I can't take him, unfortunately. But you could also look at maybe getting a tackle. I think Troy Fatanu is going to move inside. I think that's his best option. He shouldn't stay outside. Getting a tackle would be a really fun option for the Steelers. But I've said it before. I'm gonna get someone on the interior they have Derek Harmon solo. I'm going to get someone on the interior, a developmental guy next to Cam Hayward, because Cam won't be there forever, okay? You need a developmental guy next to Cam Hayward that could take over when he leaves. Derek Harmon is going to be my pick here for the Steelers. I think this is a really good pick for them. Maybe you want to trade back if you take him, but you know what? That's fine value for me. All right, Chargers on the board here. This is Colson Loveland. Look, Will Dissly was not good in the playoff game. They have Will Dissly and Tyler Conklin, sure, but is that going to stop you from drafting a really good receiving tight end that worked very closely with Harbaugh? No, absolutely not. They need a tight end here. They also need a boundary wide receiver so that Ladd can work in the slot some more. But Colson Loveland, I think, is a very good pick here for the Chargers. I'm going to go that route. I don't know what they're barking at. Now, Packers on the board here. This is just the route they're going to go. You know they're going to go Michael Williams if he's here. They don't need an edge, but you know that's the route they're going to go. That's just what they do. Hey, shut your mouth. I don't think they need to. They have Kingsley and Agbari as their third edge right now. They have Lucas Van Ness, which he's still developing. And they have Rashawn Gary. So I don't think they need to go with Michael. But this is predictive. I think this is what they're going to do. Michael is going to be my pick here for the Packers. Now, Vikings here. This is where I'm going to try to trade back with the Browns. Browns are going to move up. Does the pick value really matter? The pick value doesn't matter in a first-round mock. It's not like I'm going to be using that pick, But, they trade back. They'd probably get let's see here. They'd probably get 94. And there we go. And Browns are going to move up and get Shedeur. I just said that thing about Shedeur, but they took Travis Hunter, who's probably going to play wide receiver his first year. So you take Shedeur, and there you go. You take Shedeur, pair him up with Travis Hunter, and I think that's something that works out pretty well for the Browns. Um, I think that's fun. That's a fun storyline. I like it. Um, so now we are here with the Texans, and here wide receiver is an option, sure, but you probably want to get a bigger guy. I would want to get a bigger guy. I think offensive line is probably the best option here, and I've taken it for them countless amounts of times. Donovan Jackson here. That's gonna be my pick. They need a left guard. They just do. They just need a left guard. That's it. Plain and simple. They have Laken Tomlinson there. That cannot happen. Donovan Jackson is going to be my pick for the Texans here. Now here for the Rams. I could go multiple routes. I could go Jahdae Barron. I could. I could go Emeka Egbuka. Get them a really good slot receiver. But the route I think I'm going to go is Josh Connerly. You look at their offensive line situation. You know they have Alaric Jackson, who they just extended, but Rob Havenstein is their right tackle. He's not going to be there next year. He won't be. So you look at the tackles. Josh Connerly is, I think, someone that could develop very, very nicely and move over to the right side. Could also look at Josh Simmons, but it really seems like with his medicals, he's going to be falling far. So I guess he didn't test out very well, or his medicals didn't check out. So Josh Connerly is a good option. But you know what? With Emeka here, I don't think I could pass on him. I really don't. I don't think I could pass on him for the Rams. I'm going to take Emeka here to the Rams, but Josh Connerly I do think is a really good option for them. Now, on the board here for the Ravens, I think I got to go edge here. I don't love their edge group. I think Donovan Ezeraku is probably the best guy here. They have Kyle Van Noy is not the future. I don't think he's their future, edge one as a 35-year-old. And they have Odafe Owe. David Ajabo has just been a complete bust. Donovan Ezeraku is where I'm going to go here, but Mike Green could also be the pick. I'm just going with Ezeraku because of his much higher floor, in my opinion. And now is where Mike Green is going to go to the Lions. I think Lions do need an edge. Hutchinson's health is in question for sure. I think he'll come back to basically what he was, but you also have some injury issues across that entire defensive line, and Mike Green just feels like a Dan Campbell guy. I'm going to go with Mike Green here to the Lions. And now on the board with the Commanders. Luther Burden is fun here. Luther Burden is actually really fun here. They have Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel, but they lost De'Ami Brown. So I think Luther Burden is actually a really good pick here. You could look at Jahdae Barron with how he's falling. But I think he's a pure slot, and they just grabbed Mikey Sainer still, although he was playing kind of on the boundary. But I think you move him to the slot, and that'll be really good. I think I'm going to go with Luther Burden here to the Commanders. Might be a bit of a shocking pick, but getting that really good slot receiver for the future, I like that for the Commanders. Now on the board here for the Bills, this is interesting. Jahdae Barron, he is falling because I think the way that the NFL values the slot, it's just I don't see him going top 20. He very well might, but I think this is a good place for Jahdae Barron. He's very versatile. I think he could potentially work on the boundary. He should be a slot. They have Taron Johnson there now, which Barron would win over that starting job. But you could also play him at safety, I think, would be very fun. I don't like their safety room with Damar Hamlin in a starting role there. But I think I'm not going to take Jahdae Barron. I think the perfect fit for the Bills is Trey Amos. Trey Amos is going to be my pick here. I just think he is best player, the best player on the board for that defense. He reminds me a lot of Rasul Douglas, and he'd be great to be across from Christian Benford. All right, Chiefs on the board here. This has to be Josh Simmons. They need a left tackle more than anything. More than anything, they need a left tackle. And if you need him to first year, he could slide into left guard. So I think this is the perfect fit for Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons is going to go at 31 of the Chiefs. It does seem like he is falling. He could slip out of the first because of his injuries. And now here they are, They're going to get away with it again. They're just going to get just an absolute baller. I mean, they always take best player available. They do. Jahdae Barron could be the pick here, but they have DeJean playing safety and in the slot. But I think if you move DeJean maybe to safety, you move him to full-time safety and take Jahdae Barron at pick 32 to play in the nickel. That's the best secondary in the league. I'm going to take Jahdae Barron here to the Eagles, and that is going to be this first round predictive mock. I will see you guys later for my live stream of the first round of the draft. Make sure to tune into that. Give this video a like if you enjoyed. I never say that in my videos, but give this video a like if you enjoyed. And if you stayed this long, I appreciate you. All right. Hope y'all enjoyed. See y'all next time. Later.